Look, if you've just graduated, or even if you're navigating your first few years in the legal field, you already know the shock, right? There's this massive, often completely terrifying gap between what you studied in the library and what you're actually doing out in real-world practice. I mean, you can memorize statutes all day long, but absolutely nothing quite prepares you for the panic of a real-life client demanding an immediate answer, or, a senior partner tearing apart your very first memo over some tiny formatting error. Today, we're bringing you the ultimate guide to bridging that exact gap in this explainer. We're putting on our Real Talk mentor hats and diving straight into 10 harsh realities of legal practice that the classroom completely skipped over. Let's get into it. There's a saying out there: law school teaches you how to think like a lawyer, but it rarely teaches you how to be one. And honestly, this right here is the core tension we're tackling today. Understanding this difference is exactly what separates your average graduates from true top-tier practitioners. Knowing the law, well, that's only half the battle. Knowing how to execute it, how to survive the daily grind, and how to actually deal with people in the real world, that's the whole other half.
Okay, let's dive into this foundational concept. Part 1. Theory versus reality, the gap between classroom and courtroom.
So in law school, you kind of exist in this isolated bubble. It's all case law, deep theoretical debates, and really strict legal analysis. It's an environment that actively rewards the longest, most complicated answer. But the second you step into actual legal practice, the game changes entirely. Suddenly, it becomes about managing people, running a business, displaying actual empathy, and communicating with extreme brevity. And this shift is jarring because the exact skills that got you an A on a final exam are very rarely the skills that get a client to actually hire you. The classroom is entirely about theory, but the boardroom and the courtroom, they are deeply, messily human.
Which brings us right to part 2, the human element, dealing with clients and peers.
We're going to keep this fast. This human element basically boils down to 4 absolutely crucial soft skills: mastering the art of listening, managing conflict, writing for actual human beings, and managing client expectations. Let's start with the art of listening. In school, you were quite literally trained to listen so you could analyze. You're constantly listening for the fact pattern, the loophole, the legal hook. But in practice, you really have to learn to listen to empathize. Clients are very rarely just facing a neat, tidy legal issue, right? They're often in a state of intense personal or financial crisis. If they're sitting in your office facing a terrifying lawsuit or a bitter divorce, they don't want a robot reciting statutes at them. They want to know you actually hear their panic. If you only provide cold legal analysis, you are going to lose their trust completely.
And building on that empathy brings us directly to conflict management. The harsh truth is, you aren't just managing case files. You're managing deeply complex personalities. Every single day, you'll be forced to navigate passive-aggressive colleagues, incredibly difficult clients, and combative opposing counsel. And let's be real, some of your biggest conflicts won't even be in the courtroom. They'll be managing the massive ego of a senior partner who's just having a bad day. Your ability to take a breath, stay calm, and de-escalate those tense situations is honestly just as important as your ability to cite precedent.
Plus, how you communicate with those people is just as critical. Back in school, academic writing was designed to impress your professors with exhaustive knowledge and heavy vocabulary. But practical legal writing, it is entirely about brevity and clarity. You're writing for judges and clients who are incredibly busy. Think about it, a judge reading hundreds of pages a week is going to be actively annoyed by a beautifully written 50-page theoretical memo if the answer could have been stated in a single well-crafted paragraph. They don't want an academic thesis, they want the bottom line, delivered clearly and quickly.
Finally, for this human element, you absolutely must master the art of managing expectations. So much of the frustration and burnout in the legal profession comes from misaligned client expectations. Clients often come to you wanting a 100% absolute guarantee of victory. Your job is to politely but firmly anchor them to reality. The ultimate fix for this is the golden rule: under-promise and over-deliver. If you promise them the moon and only deliver the stars, the client's going to be furious. But if you set realistic boundaries and outline all the risks right up front, everything you achieve above that baseline feels like a massive, hard-earned victory.
Let's move on and see how this builds into Part 3, the business of law, the reality of running a practice. We're transitioning from dealing with people to dealing with profits. We're talking about learning how to run a business, managing your personal finances, and understanding the true power of networking. If you're in private practice, you have to accept a really harsh truth. You are an entrepreneur first and a lawyer second. A lot of new attorneys deeply resent having to market themselves or having to track their entire day in agonizing 6-minute billable increments. But look at this breakdown.
Actual legal drafting might only be a third of your day. Accounting and billing make up another third, and marketing and client acquisition, that takes up the rest. Realizing that billing and marketing is the job, rather than just some annoying distraction from the job, is absolutely key to your success. And to survive as an entrepreneur, you have to master financial management, both personal and professional. Managing your personal debt is essential. Graduating with massive student loans can act as a brutal set of golden handcuffs. It can literally force you to take high-paying, incredibly high-stress jobs that you hate, leading directly to burnout. So manage those personal finances aggressively. But equally important is understanding the business model of your law firm, knowing exactly how your firm makes money, the specific metrics you're judged on, and your role in that money-making machine. That's what ensures your career longevity.
Ultimately, though, the actual engine of your business is your network. In the real world, your GPA quickly becomes completely irrelevant. And true networking isn't about handing out glossy business cards at some awkward mixer. It's entirely about who knows your reputation. Success is about who knows your reputation for integrity and diligence. It's built by how you treat opposing counsel when a deadline gets missed, or how respectfully you treat the court clerks who actually keep the whole system running. That everyday diligence is what truly opens doors for sure.
Shifting gears now to our most personal section, Part 4, the inner game, dealing with yourself.
These final 3 truths require a deeply personal reality check about working in the legal field, facing unintended emotional consequences, balancing resilience with perfection, and finding your actual self-worth.
I want to be really serious about this one. The most unspoken reality of this profession is the unintended emotional consequence of the work. You are dealing with secondary trauma. You routinely absorb the worst days of your clients' lives, their extreme stress, their broken families, their ruined businesses. This heavy emotional toll means that building a personal mindfulness practice early on is not a luxury. Creating a specific ritual to physically and mentally leave work at work, maybe listening to a specific podcast on your commute or going straight to the gym, is absolutely non-negotiable if you want to survive in this field intact.
Because you are dealing with such incredibly high stakes, the battle between resilience and perfection is constant. Law school totally conditioned you to seek the perfect, bulletproof, legally flawless answer. But in the courtroom or sitting at a tense closing table, things will absolutely go wrong. Documents go missing, judges get impatient, and sometimes the star witness suddenly forgets their testimony right there on the stand. In those visceral moments, your beautifully crafted, perfect outline is entirely useless. Your ability to take a breath and pivot in real time is what actually wins the day. Resilience beats perfection every single time.
And this brings us to the final and perhaps most vital truth. Your value is entirely independent of your title. It is so easy to let your entire identity become wrapped up in being a lawyer, billing the most hours, or winning a massive case. But what happens when you lose a big case? If your ego is tied entirely to your job, you will shatter. You must consciously nurture your sense of self-worth outside of your firm. Have hobbies. Cultivate friendships with people who aren't lawyers. You're a complete human being, and you are far more than your billable hours.
So, the crucial point we're driving at is this. Part 5, the secret synthesis, moving beyond rote memorization.
Let's step back and look at the big picture. Ask yourself this right now. Now that you've graduated and stepped into the arena, what actually matters more? Is it the raw, memorized knowledge in your head, or is it your navigational skill out in the real world?
The answer is unequivocally navigational skill. You're transitioning from accumulating knowledge in a vacuum to mastering navigation under intense pressure. The goal is no longer knowing every single answer off the top of your head. The real goal is knowing exactly where to find that answer, and more importantly, acting as a translator. The very best lawyers take incredibly dense, complicated legalese and simplify it down into clear, actionable choices for a totally stressed-out client.
Which leads us to the ultimate takeaway for this explainer. Soft skills yield the hardest returns. It sounds deeply counterintuitive when you just spent 3 years reading heavy casebooks, but it is so true. Listening, empathizing, managing your own mental health, writing clearly, and building a solid reputation of integrity, these non-academic, deeply human skills are the actual foundation of a thriving, lucrative, and long-lasting legal career. Think of it this way. Law school gave you the hammer and the nails, but these human skills are what actually build the house.
We've covered a lot of crucial ground today, and I really want to hear from you. Which of these 10 truths were you least prepared for when you entered the legal field? Drop a comment below and let us know. And if you're looking to continue building your skills and finding clear, structured strategies for bridging that gap from classroom to practice, make sure to subscribe. You've got this.
We'll see you in the next explainer.